All right. Here we are. OMGot with Jeff and Theron. Are you there, Jeff?
I am here. Just, speechless as usual. Another great episode. I can't believe, we're already to episode 7. And of course, you may remember, I was dreading the end of the season, already before it started, and now I'm already in full blown, can't believe we only have 4 episodes left, but it was a good one.
How do you think there's 5 episodes left?
7, 8, 9, and 10, man.
7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, I guess so.
So, yeah. Well, what did you think overall? Did you like the episode?
I did like the episode, but it was probably my least favorite episode of the season. Mostly because this was the one episode I didn't watch more than twice. And all the rest of them I watched. Like I watched, what was the episode where John comes back home, right?
Right.
I watched that one like 5 or 6 times. I watched the first one like 4 times, but and it's not taking away anything from this episode. It was a very good episode, but it just wasn't my favorite of what we have thus far. And it's still better than anything else that I'm watching on TV. So,
well, let's figure out why you didn't like it, and let's get into it.
All right.
One thing I really like, they start off right where we left off last week with Mira trying to.
This is episode 6. This is episode 6, Blood of My Blood.
Episode 6. There you go. Welcome to this week, Sarah. And so we've got Mira dragging Bran through the wilderness. Now,
which is a scary fucking scene.
Well, I'm just glad that they had help, and because there was no way that they were gonna, she was gonna get him away from them. So we start off right away with some of Bran's. We get some Bran's having flashbacks. So I guess what we're seeing is like he's continuing to download and become the new Blood Raven, Three-Eyed Raven. And so he's getting flashes throughout the history of Westeros. We see the Mad King for the first time. He sees his mother and his father and his brother die. And it seems like the flashbacks are just looping. The Night's King is heavily featured, and Daenerys. So we kind of see in the flashbacks, the parameters of the series, really, which is, Ice and Fire, the Mad King, and Daenerys and her dragons, and then, of course, with the White Walkers and the Night's King. I know you looked at those flashbacks. What did you think? We do see the first image of Lyanna Stark, her hand, bloody hand. But tell me, what did you dig out of that?
Well, there was not much I got out of those flashes. Well, even when I went back through it was just kind of like a lot of stuff we already knew about, but just really kind of cool to see it. Like I would say my favorite part of it was seeing the Mad King.
Well, I think that was the only new piece of footage that they presented in the flashbacks that we haven't sort of seen. Maybe some different.
Well, there was another scene. Like you said, the Lyanna scene, and then the shadow of the dragon flying over King's Landing.
Right. But didn't we see that? I thought we saw that at the end of when Daenerys was in the House of the Undying. I could be wrong. But the big thing though in that scene is they get help in the form of Uncle Benjamin returning finally, missing in action since episode 3 of the first season. Benjamin Stark is accounted for and alive, and he comes in, of course, to save Bran just in time. And in the book, there's a character called Cold Hands that I don't know if George R.R. Martin has said that Benjamin Stark isn't Cold Hands in the book, but in the show, he's also said that it may not necessarily be that way. So anyway, we see Uncle Benjamin, and one of the things that I found most interesting in that scene was, well, there was two things, but one was he looked a little frosty, right? He looked frosty.
Uh-huh.
So he says that the children saved him after he had been stabbed and left for dead by one of the White Walkers. The children plunged into his heart obsidian glass, and is he sort of in a state of not quite alive, but not quite a white? Is that what you think? That's what we're led to believe?
Yeah, it's weird because I guess we've never really seen anything like him. We know, about the dragon glass turning the man into the Ninth King. But now he's basically saying it's what stopped him from turning all the way, cold. So
maybe they have power over it if they wanted to. It can do the opposite, because obsidian, it just dragon glass obviously is a tool of fire. It's created in volcanoes, and so it has within it. It's made by fire. So it's interesting that they used that to somehow turn the men into White Walkers. But regardless, the other interesting thing that I picked up on was that he's really clear that the White Walkers are going to be, the big bad of the final piece of this series. He says to Bran, we're going to get you south of the wall. That way you can stop the Night's King. Do you fully believe him?
Yeah, it just seems like that's where all the lore and the backstory and where all of the flow is going. It's coming from hell is coming from the top down, and it's coming with the White Walkers are bringing it. So yeah, I definitely believe that. I don't think that. And we can. I know this is later on in the episode, but when Sam's brother, when they were at the table having dinner, and Gilly says he killed the White Walker, and he was like, "Oh, there's no such thing," I think that was a counter to kind of the doubters out there. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you think that this show ain't going to end with the White Walkers coming down there and basically ripping the heart out of everybody who ever said that they didn't exist, then you got something else coming. So, yeah, I fully believe it because he's been in the thick of it. You know what I'm saying? He's been, right up there. He knows about the three-eyed raven. He knows about Bran, and he's been, hell, you can even say he's half White Walker. So, yes, I believe it fully.
Well, it's definitely, it's interesting, just we can talk later about what that sets up. I have a bad feeling for the end of this season for some of our characters who are going to be in the North. But, we can go into that later. We go right out of Vengeance coming in and saving the day. And Bran slashes to good old Sam and Gilly. Sam and Gilly traveling to Sam's house at Horn Hill, and to see Sam's family. It's a scene. Any scene with Sam and Gilly just cracks me up. I love Sam. I'm sure you enjoyed that scene with the father.
Yeah, it was kind of sad though, because he's he's worse. He's actually worse than Tywin Lannister, in my opinion. He just is just he at least Tywin Lannister laughed sometimes. You know what I mean? This guy was just stone faced and brutal, and he just didn't give two shits.
But Sam had to expect that. Sam had to know that was coming. It's just asking for the extra piece of bread. He should have known he was pushing his luck.
Yeah, but it's like really, you know what I mean? It's like this guy is going high and low, and I think the best part about this scene is that we finally get to see what Gilly looks like, all cleaned up, all shined up.
Yeah, she cleaned up good.
She did. I didn't recognize her. She came around that corner, and I was like, who's that? I didn't know it until Sam said something.
Well, I'm thinking that the whole point of this scene ultimately is going to be that Sam needed to get the sword. So he gets the ancestral sword, a Valyrian steel sword, and he takes it. And that has to be the point of the scene because, we have to figure that's going to come into play probably this season sometime. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there might have been a couple of more points of the scene, but yeah, I think that was the main thing that literally the takeaway of the scene. No pun intended. But I think it was just also a recommitment of this character Sam to his ideals. Because I just loved. But my favorite part of the whole scene is one when Gilly was standing up for him, and then and the guy saying, there's no such thing as wife. There's no such thing. It's just, I mean, at the height of British smugness, there's no such thing. And then when Sam leaves and comes back, I thought that was pretty good moment right there because I really thought he was gone. And
right.
It shocked the hell out of me. He was like, "No, we all need to be together." So, yeah. Does the sword come again in this scene? Maybe, but I got to believe that sword is probably meant to he can defend himself against some rapist or whatever along the road or whatever trying to get Gilly and the baby. But I think it's a bigger purpose for it. So you're right. I think maybe killing White Walkers, when they do come. So maybe not this season, but maybe next season.
Well, that, I mean, for Sam to have one of those Valyrian swords, I think there's obviously going to be something that he's going to do with it at the Citadel. But moving on, we're back in King's Landing. We see the High Sparrow with Tommen, and he lets Tommen in to see Marjorie, and we get a little reunion of sorts. Tommen is just, I mean, don't get me wrong, I couldn't stand Joffrey, but Tommen is just like he's the end to Joffrey Jang. He's like Paige. But we see that he has drunk the High Sparrow's Kool-Aid, And,
oh yeah,
of course, this throws a lot of salt on the idea that the High Sparrow told Tommen that the Tyrells were involved with Joffrey's murder. He's totally on board. The question is Marjorie, has she drunk the Kool-Aid as well, or is she the only one that has any sanity and she's just really playing this out?
I don't. Yeah,
do you think?
I think it's the latter. I don't believe her for 1 second, because I mean she makes some good points. You know, if I have any doubt, it's that, you know, the things that she was saying seem to ring true. You know, like she's been really thinking about this and about her past, and this is how she's reconciled that with her new belief. But
right.
It just feels like too much of a turnaround between the scene in the episode before last, where she went to see Loras, and she's telling Loras to hang on, and they got to be strong, and that he's using me. You know what I'm saying? He's using me to get to you. And now I think she's flipped it on him. She's using him so that A, she can get free, and that B, she can eventually plot to get back at him. So I don't believe her for 1 second. But if she has to, but what, you know, it shows her other face too, because she's just using Tommen. She's playing into, you know, the High Sparrow's manipulation by using Tommen, and it seems like everybody's using Tommen really.
Or trying to, yeah.
Or trying to. I mean, the only one that really doesn't have any control over him is Jamie. You know, as we saw what happened to Jamie. So yeah.
Well, we have the ultimate, you know, preparing for the Walk of Atonement. You know, we get Jamie and Mace Tyrell leaving their army on their old mate. He's a
armor on.
He's a colorful bird, that is for sure. And we see the Queen of Thorns arriving to shut it down, and of course the High Sparrow, you know, is one step ahead of him. And at first I didn't notice, but did you caught on that the big deal was when Tommen walked out, he was surrounded by new Kingsguard who had the emblem on their breastplate of the church.
I saw that. Uh-huh.
So that means basically Tommen's under, you know, the watchful protection / you know, control of the church. That is what Marjorie, I think, is going for. Now she has Tommen isolated, and if the High Sparrow thinks that she is also, you know, with the program, so to speak, that puts her in, you know, basically complete control, because now she will have, you know, basically sitting at the apex of the high, you know, of Tommen, basically the only one that has Tommen's ear. So that's an interesting development. I think King's Landing is literally going to be like on fire by the end of the season. I think that I think that this is setting up for a disaster for them. But we see Jamie, you know, basically being relieved of his duties and being, I guess he's basically now the Lord of Casterly Rock. Is he, you know, the new Tywin, now that he's not a Kingsguard?
I mean, is that so because of by birthright? He's because who's in control of Casterly Rock now?
I guess it would be Uncle Kevin, but Kevin is the hand of the king, so regardless, he sends Jamie to River Run to squash it, as it turns out, the Blackfish, who is the one man who escaped the Red Wedding, has gathered the Tullys and retaken River Run from the Freys, and so Jamie is being sent with the Lannister army away from King's Landing to River Run, and I think that is where you're going to have chaos in King's Landing. because, the Lannister army would be loyal to Cersei and Jaime and Tommen. Without them, it just leaves things ripe, I think, for chaos down there. So, what do you think of that?
He still has the Tyrell army there, right? I mean,
yeah, but I think that I don't know if either of those two houses trust each other. To be honest, I think that I think they're just waiting to screw the other over. And without Jaime there, I think it's a little bit easier for that to happen, with Marjorie sort of being in control of Tommen, Cersei going on trial. She talks about that. She's planning on a trial by combat, and she, of course, has the mountain. Now, there is a rumor. Have you heard about Clegane Bowl?
Yeah, I know about Clegane Bowl. And
spoiler alert.
Yeah, potential spoiler. I don't know if I buy it, but I'm trying. See, here's the thing. Game of Thrones, they're not quite like The Walking Dead, where they will, purposely not show you the fate of a character just so that they can drag it out, for extra ratings. But they have done it a few times where they kind of cut away, to the actual death to lead people to even ask the question of, Stan is still alive? They didn't show him die, And the same thing happened with the Hound in Arya. I mean, he was fucked up the last time we saw him, but he wasn't dead. But you can only assume that he died. But here's the thing: there was no death blow on him. You know what I'm saying? Arya left him. He was still alive. So I think that just what they did was it just gave them the room to figure out, okay, if we need to bring him back, or if there's a way to work him in, or if we want to have Clegane Bowl, we can have it. Or if we never see him again, then we can have it. So it's kind of like they have it both ways, But I'm inclined to believe that that if they did bring him back, that it makes sense, because we never actually saw him die.
Well, I think that they would have to definitely do a beat before they do that. They'd have to set that up somehow. But you mentioned her, so speaking of Arya, we going over to Bravos now. We see her. She has. She's working on her final, her first assignment for the multi-faced god as a faceless man, and she is supposed to kill the actress playing Cersei in the play of the Battle of the Five Kings, and she can't do it. At the end of the day, she puts the poison in there, and she stops her from drinking it. Totally rats out the girl who put the hit on her, and the waif sees her, and turns out she goes to Jagan, tells her what she's done, and now the waif is allowed to try to kill Arya. Arya has found her needle sword, and it looks like she has fully embraced her identity again, and so interesting to see. I was a little surprised at that. I thought she would go through with it. I thought that would have something to do with her list. I'm sort of surprised that she did that. Wondering if that's going to be the end of her training. She's just going to go back to Westeros, because God, that's a hell of a waste of time if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed at all that, because if she manages to escape the waif, then does she then have to escape Jaqen? If she kills the waif, Jaqen's going to have to find her and kill her. So.
Well, I mean, I think that, maybe killing the waif would make her.
Unless this is the test, unless it's still all a test, you know what I'm saying? Unless he's using the waif in this manner to figure out, okay, so if somehow Arya does turn the tables and kill the waif, then maybe she's ready, and maybe she. I don't know. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like something more plausible. Otherwise, I really don't know why we ended up here. I mean, it would just if she just gets on the bus
what does she
back to Westeros.
Get out of all the.
I mean, why do I have to watch her? Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if she beat the waif, if she really learned how to fight, and then they put her out there, and she couldn't do the killing. But then she leaves, escapes, but then now she's a badass, But now she's barely. I mean, she can fight a little bit. I mean, she's better off than she was when she first got there. But for the most part, she just got her ass kicked, and and learned about the faces and all this stuff. And I had sent you a text earlier in the week about how Jaqen talks about the many-faced God. But earlier I had went back to season 2 in those scenes with Harrenhal. He kept saying the red God. And he was saying the new gods and the old gods and all this stuff, but he never said the many-faced God. And I'm trying to figure out what's up with that.
Well, I think the red God is the many-faced God. It's sort of like in the face of the 7, one of them is the stranger, and the stranger, which was Book of the Stranger, in the scene that a lot of the Arya scenes. Were in that episode. It's basically, an extension of the stranger, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you started worshiping Mary instead of Jesus, right?
Right.
Or Peter, and you're like, Peter really had it, and that's actually what's actually happening. I mean, the church is basically built on Peter instead of Jesus. But anyway, so it's just sort of like an offshoot of that. And I think they're exchangeable. But yeah, I hear you. I remember that. And you know what? The Red God, I thought the Red God was, the Lord of Light. So, there's a lot of gods on this show. Nobody's acting godly though. Like literally,
Well, right, exactly.
But there's a lot of religion, but nobody's really living up to it. So,
right.
So that really takes
the closest one actually is the High Sparrow.
Yeah, but I think that's a shoe that's we're waiting for another shoe to drop.
Yeah, I mean he's fanatical, but he's the only one that seems to at least. He's acting out of, what he feels to be a righteous path. And, he gave up a life of, partying, debauchery for a simpler life. It's his path seems to be more of, in line with, traditional, if you want to call it biblical, whatever, than anybody else's. Everybody else's is kind of based around magic and sorcery and weird shit like the many faces and all that stuff. And, I can actually, I mean, if I get behind one of them, it'd probably be High Sparrow. Cause I don't know about the Red God with smoke babies and, king's blood and all of this shit. And, and then the red woman and, so I don't know.
I hear you. I mean, out of everyone, he's probably personally the most, but I don't know if I trust his church so much. But lastly, we see Daenerys leading the Dothraki out of Vice Dothrak back to Meereen and talking to what's his name? Her man there. And so we see basically who?
Dario.
And so this was the scene that I have envisioned the whole off season, and I think I predicted this would be how she got out of her situation, being taken by the Dothraki. She finally gets on the much bigger Drogon. He's huge. I mean, he's just like an aircraft carrier in the sky.
He's full grown.
Well, I don't think he's full grown. I think they grow for hundreds of years. But he's definitely bigger. And she is, you can barely see her on his back. What a great, another great, moment for Daenerys.
She's had many of these throughout the series. More than
like every other week, right?
Yeah, she just had one, but more than any other character, she has had these, rousing, big speech, whether she's walking out of the fire with 3 dragons on her back or riding a dragon after she just came out of a fire. I mean, she just, but I think this was kind of, this sealed, I mean, the Dothraki were with her. They were with her. They were already following her. But if anybody had any doubt, it just squashed any doubt after this, because, man, she owned it. She owned this whole section.
Well, and it's you see how she did it by changing up the Dothraki ways. Just for a review, typically in the past, each cow has picked 3 what they call blood riders who basically agree to follow him into death. So just to put a finer point and hang a lantern on what she did, she, instead of just picking 3, she picks the entire Dothraki horde as her blood riders, and they go nuts. So this is like, literally like the socialism of the Dothraki. Like, we're all equal, we're all just as important, and we will all die for her. And, so it seems like she's ready to go. Once she gets to Marine, she's packing. Conveniently, she knows just that it will take, at least 1,000 ships. Just happens to be the numbers that the Greyjoys are trying to produce in Pike. And I'm sure it'll take them, a couple episodes to sail over. But it looks like we're right on track for her.
A couple episodes? I mean, season. Well, they better not.
This is
I'll tell you this. They better not have Euron finishing these boats and getting on these ships in the next 2 episodes. If you want to stretch it, if you really, really got to do it, and you got to do it this season, that should be one of the last fucking scenes that we see in this season. That is Euron, the ships are done and he's in the water and he's headed there. But if they do that in the next 2 episodes, I'm not watching the show anymore.
Whatever.
Just no way.
Yeah, I wish.
It'd be one thing if they had Sansa sewing the sails, right? Because she can just turn out a new Stark coat, complete with the wolf emblem on it and leather, and she could just wear wolf's fur. She could just turn that shit out overnight, and whoever makes the armor at King's Landing, they can just put, just like, oh, okay, we'll just take these logos and brand them into the damn, golden armor of the King's Guard. But come on, I mean, they, realistically, at least wait till next season and then just cut to Euron just now getting over to Marine or wherever he's going to be. But that's just, I don't know, that's just kind of crazy to think that would happen. But at least, I think the chess pieces are put on the board, whether with dialogue or whether with actual plot movement. And we can see that the story flow is going up to Daenerys and Meereen to get to her for one, and then to bring her out of there, right? So that's like the last slide of her story arc. And then we have in the north the White Walkers, and then descending upon Bran and then Bran probably trying to get the hell out of there and to the wall, and then in the, I guess the mid north or whatever you want to call it, everything seems to be converging at River Run, with Brienne going there and Jaime going there, and the whole thing with Blackfish and Freys and all that stuff. So yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've seen this, but we've got the titles released for the last 4 episodes. This week coming up, we've got The Broken Man. I'll get back to that one in a second, but episode 8 is No One. Obviously, that's going to be that's going to refer to Arya, and then we've got episode 9, The Battle of the Bastards. Obviously, Jon Snow, Ramsay Snow / Bolton.
Oh wow.
And so episode 9 is always, a big episode historically for Game of Thrones. And then episode 10, The Winds of Winter.
Wow.
And, I mean, if that episode doesn't end with, the White Walkers, I mean, there's
that's
a part
the White Walker episode.
Yeah, there's a part of me that thinks we may actually see, them not only get through, but maybe get down. I have a bad feeling that all this happiness for the Starks is gonna turn to ashes in our mouth again, because I think obviously, we're gonna see, Arya, whatever happens there, I think it's a foregone conclusion, for Jon Snow and Sansa to take back Winterfell. And I've said it all season. I'll keep saying it till it happens. I think, that joy is going to really be short-lived, because I think the minute they do in episode 10, they're going to, the White Walkers. Yeah, I think they're going to get through the wall, and I think we're going to have, it depends on how they want to do it. I could see it literally being like a wave and just freezing everything. Once they, who knows what that wall is actually holding out in terms of magic. And, who knows what kind of magic that the Night's King has. So it's definitely,
Well, I think, just based on that title and some of the stuff you just said, I think it's going to really converge, on the White Walkers, but also Bran as well. I think we're going to really get to see, what Bran's purpose really is, and what he went, all the sacrifices that he made, and everything that happened to Bran. I think we're going to see that, Let me ask you a question. Do you think, like, when Benjen said he was the three-eyed raven, what, like, metaphysically or literally, what do you think he meant?
Well, I think that he meant that the three-eyed raven was killed, and Bran is the new three-eyed raven.
So is it like,
he said, because they said, she said the three-eyed raven is dead, and he goes, yes, and now he lives again. So that was clearly, right. And then Bran says, well, yeah, but I wasn't finished with my training, I'm not ready. And so they have all that. Yeah. So Bran is definitely the man, and, I think,
but I mean, do you think it's like, a passing of the torch kind of thing, or is it like there only could be one three-eyed raven at a time?
Oh yeah, there's only one at a time. He was the last one, and lots of cool theories about Bran and time travel. I could see something. The one I guess that I was thinking of is I could see something towards the end of Game of Thrones if Bran survives, that he rebuilds the wall somehow.
Right.
And he sort of becomes Bran the Builder. And maybe he was Bran the Builder all along, with his ability to time travel.
Right.
I think there's only one though, and I think that that's Bran. Bran is that guy. He's gonna have to really save the day. So should be interesting to see. I think I'm still waiting for our Tower of Joy flashback. When that's going to happen, to see up at the top of the tower. Still waiting for that one. So, but otherwise, that's it, man. That's a wrap on episode 6. Can't wait for episode 7.
Yeah.
On Sunday.
Yeah. So, to everybody out there in TV land, give us a shout. We will be, I guess this is at this point, that next season we'll be on iTunes, but, for now, just continue to find us on, SoundCloud, under OMGot and, now, YouTube. So we'll see you in 2 and 2.
Next week.
Next week.